Welcome back to the channel. I hope you're all having a great evening. So today, the video is going to be about Bitcoin MYK, why it was right and has it been correct all along. So sometimes timing can be everything. Um, and when you're talking about subjects like whether it be automation, universal basic income, a lot of those conversations have to do around the issue of timing. When is this going to happen? When do we have to do something about it? When you're dealing with human psychology, humans are typically pretty much reactionary. We can give you a few examples of that. We were reactionary during the pandemic, meaning that when we were running out of the mask and different things, we hadn't thought about a scenario like that where we could run out of mask and what that would mean, right? Um, we're very reactionary. If we look at just the other week, that was big news concerning how we get access to the delivery of our food and shipment of our vital products and products and such. There was a union strike force that I can't even remember these guys' names at this time, but one thing was sure or clear is that it interrupted all the news and our daily lives with being concerned about, are we going to have food in the grocery stores in the next couple of days? Are we going to have medicines to keep us alive as such? Because these people and these services address all those things. And we weren't, not only weren't we prepared for anything like that, we didn't even know anything like that. These situations, as they were, seemed to come out the ether, right? Nobody was uh, concerned about these things. They hit us all of a sudden, and then there was a reaction to it, right? So several years ago, when I started Bitcoin MYK to address problems of automation, this is like right after the presidential candidate Andrew Yang was running for president, and universal basic income as an idea had been pretty much for the first time introduced to American households, although the idea of universal basic income specifically in America is over 300 years old, championed by one of the heroes of the revolution, Thomas Paine. And so it's a very American conservative old idea, right? The way that the governments run today, the way that companies run today, these are all kind of new inventions, right? So many of the things we look at as, whether they be conservative ideas or whether they be liberal ideas, have shifted and changed over the last 100 or so years. Um, what's significant about this particular point in time that hasn't been significant, such as when Bitcoin MYK first started? And if you don't know what Bitcoin MYK is, if you watch the channel or if you heard of things like Bitcoin, you probably have some understanding of the future of money, the future of finance, the future of how many of us will live, do day-to-day transactions and such. And that's concerning a lot with cryptocurrency. There's talk of governments getting cryptocurrencies instead of dollars, because it'll be much easier to track, to collect taxes, right? If you're doing a transaction with a dollar in the back alley, the government doesn't know about it. So putting us on a blockchain, everybody, where they can see everything, every transaction, probably would be better idea for the government, right? Not collecting dollars and money at all would probably be better, right? So very much important issues, but Bitcoin MYK is using the power of cryptocurrency and the blockchain to address problems in automation, to address many socio-economic concerns very important issues to me that should be up there with nuclear proliferation, that should be up there with climate change, that should be up there with jobs and the economy. But it kind of gets pushed to the back of the bus only to until it's time to be reactionary, meaning like the pandemic. How are you going to get money and food to these people? Who's going to go do the jobs? The port strike workers. Who's going to deliver the food? Are we going to be able to negotiate with these guys? They're talking about they don't want to come back to work unless we guarantee that robots don't take their jobs and automations. But we can't really guarantee that because that's not how capitalism works. Capitalism works on progress, right? And so you can't stop progress. You can't stop robots and machines, right? It just doesn't work like that. So, um, what's significant about this point in time that might be different for our project than others is that what we're seeing, specifically what's being talked about a lot is at the Tesla event. That was uh, Elon Musk doing his annual Tesla events to unroll out the latest in his driverless cars and his Optimus robots as such and whatever else he's doing. What was significant about that was the price of these robots. So and the displays they did with the dexterity. Now there was talk about these robots being human controlled, but it's important that you understand that the movements and the things that these robots could do, these things could be pre-programmed to do those very same things, and with linguistic models like ChatGPT or something like that integrated into them, these robots would very easily, from the technology I've been researched so far, would be able to adapt to that. So many times when they talk about, oh, it's a human controlling that and he's responding to this way, many times in a practical sense when you're dealing with jobs as such, especially repetitive work, those things aren't going to stop the robot from taking human jobs. And seeing that they're at this level now and what we saw with that event, many people who normally wouldn't be concerned are now going, hey, wait a minute, maybe we were off. Maybe this isn't something that's going to happen 20, 30, 50 years from now. Maybe this isn't something that um, is going to take your jobs in the next 10 years. Maybe they're going to take your jobs next year in 2025, right? So now what's happening is, just like what we saw with the going back to the port strike workers, if you go over to China, the strikes that they're doing here in China, those docks are fully automated, right? Meaning there isn't any human doing any of that. And even the shipment and the driving to facilities, right? We already know we can do that. That's why Elon Musk was having the event, right? That these are things that are upon us now. And another thing we like to mention is there is no reason to believe, looking at everything that's happening, that technology is going to move in a linear way to the point of where, oh, it's moving at this pace today, so next week is going to be moving at that same pace. No, much like the events of the port strike workers, much like the events of ChatGPT, much like the events of the pandemic, these things can just uh, apparently uh, get on our drop into our worlds instantaneously, immediately, right? And then we're stuck with what to do in a very reactionary way. Now, I think most people would agree that the best way to address problems is through preparation and not when they land on your lap. And I think that's what Bitcoin MYK has been saying the last several years. Uh, what's significant about this particular situation is I'm seeing things I haven't seen prior, right? Like we come on YouTube and it's always this kind of niche universal basic income futurist community saying, hey, you don't see these robots here? They're going to take your jobs. They're going to, your life's going to change dramatically. You're just going to go home one day and you're not going to have a job. Whereas it was these very niche communities saying that, and people were saying, oh, you guys are crazy or you're fear mongering. Uh, now there are people who have nothing to do with this particular area. There are makeup artists talking about it. There are relationship people talking about it. It's just all these categories I'm noticing on YouTube. People who don't have anything to do with technology or robots. I don't know, maybe their jobs interfering. I mean, is that the threat? And they now realize that this is something they need to be concerned about. Maybe it's a situation like with the artists, with the Writers Guild, the Actors Guild, where you see these advanced AI taking these people's jobs. But this technology, what we're seeing, there's another thing people forget. There's a thing called research and development, right? And in research and development, and these special groups and these special areas of companies, there's technology that hasn't been released yet that is fully functioning maybe 20, 30 years ahead, right? So when we say, oh, maybe 20, 30 years from now, those things can drop in our lap at any time. And I think people also forget that factor. When I speak to developers, they tell us things like, and I speak to developers every day, they tell me things like, oh, this is nothing more than a puppet being controlled by on a string, right? By somebody controlling them. But oftentimes these developers, they don't work for big entities like Google, Microsoft. They don't work for they're not in these special departments. They're not in these top secret areas. They may have worked for Google, but they're now fired or something to that effect. But these aren't developers who are privy to a lot of this advanced technology. And so a lot of the things they're talking about are the things we see and are talking about. Um, the reality of the situation is that how our development happens, even if you look at something like ChatGPT, it kind of seemingly came out of nowhere. Nobody was really, we kind of had the Series, we had Alexas, and these things were bumbling around. You had to talk to it twice. You couldn't really hold a conversation with it. It didn't understand things. It couldn't write code, etc. And then all of a sudden, we got something that can. So Btcmyk, I think our project is on the same trajectory of, whereas before we've always looked at it as a long-term project, but it may not necessarily follow suit that that's what's going to happen. Um, I think a lot of people watch the channel where you're in cryptocurrency, whether you're think Bitcoin MYK is a waste of time, or you think meme coins are something you do for a hobby, gambling. You don't really see a lot of value in blockchain technology. Maybe that's why you don't use it or take it serious. Um, I just want to remind you all that things can change, and sometimes they change quite rapidly. Uh, this is something that's not going away. Robots are going to do all our jobs. Over 90% of them. They're going to do most everything, right? We have overestimated our abilities in the workplace, right? We think that we're irreplaceable. We're not irreplaceable. In fact, it is more likely that the job you're doing is replaceable by a robot. Um, whether it's at a professional level or if it's at a very much in a factory line work, uh, the eventuality is the same. Of course, we can address the timelines, but the overall issue is, even if we go along the scope of timelines, if now is not a good time to prepare, then what would be? Or is the idea to not do anything at all, right? So, uh, yeah, so there's a lot happening here uh, with these robots and with this technology that we need to be aware of and I think take seriously. The poor strike workers will be coming back next year with more demands. I don't think they're going to get them. And we're probably going to go through this time a very serious supply chain stop. And unfortunately, I think that's what it's going to take to get people to in other words, they got to feel the pain, right? They got to feel the pain. And my prediction is Then all of the universal basic income projects, all of the technology, cryptocurrencies, projects, platforms, systems that address automation, that try to find out what to do with these displaced workers or people who are affected directly or indirectly by this, what to be done about them. And it's gonna be in real time. It's gonna be with the boots on your neck, under duress. Unfortunately, right? But that's how it always happens. I think when we created Bitcoin MYK years ago, we did do it in a lot better times, right? Where we could see this problem. Hard to predict exactly when it would happen, but we saw this coming down the pipeline. I think it's here now. Uh, I think we're going to have to go through the crucible. I think Bitcoin MYK emerges out the end of that as taken very serious as a serious project. Uh, there is no mistake with Sam Altman who's the creator of ChatGPT, jumping in behind a cryptocurrency. Now I want you guys to closely follow all the steps I'm about to say now, so you have a clear understanding of the steps people are taking. Sam Altman, founder of ChatGPT, right, talks about the problem of automation to the human worker. What's his next move? Creating a universal basic income project to address that. Who's that sound like? Who did that several years ago, starting in 2018 as Bitcoin MYK. Now, here's the issue, right? Or here's something you need to pay attention to. A lot of people have started universal basic income projects, pilot programs in various cities. Some have done actually quite well. In San Francisco, I believe in Dallas, Texas, all over the world, good results have come. Um, Now, Sam Altman, much like Jack Dorsey did, Jack Dorsey, I think he put something like $4 billion towards it, right? I'm sorry, I could be off on that. It might be in the millions, so don't quote me on that. But he was the former owner of Twitter concerned about it. You see all these very smart people concerned about that, UBI and automation. Watch that very closely. But I noticed Sam Altman didn't take a traditional pilot program. He went straight to the blockchain cryptocurrency. Who else that reminds you of? Bitcoin MYK. So we're many, many steps ahead of the smartest, richest people in the history of the world. And many of us are still like a deer in headlights looking at us going, well, we don't know. We don't know if this is going to be a thing. Maybe you're wasting your time. Maybe you should make a meme coin or something like that. Um, I think we clearly have on our glasses, and we see the significant problem. We feel we're right where we need to be when these things hit. So I think we were right all along, and I think the world's going to see that. And unfortunately, they're going to see it in the way I was hoping that they wouldn't have to see it. And that's under devastation. That's under the port workers not getting the food out, thinking that, things will get better, everybody will come to the table and see the issue of automation. Because make no mistake about it, that's what it was all about, automation. That's what this is all about, that these robots are going to replace human beings. There's no doubt about it. And, getting back to the Tesla event, these things are going to cost less than a car. So think about this. You're going to be able to have a humanoid robot that can pretty much do everything a person on a job can do. You're going to have control of this robot, and everybody's going to own one of these robots, right? Pretty much if you can afford to buy a car, right? And so they're talking like something like $20,000, $30,000. I've seen uh, these service bots that are only $16,000 that are on the level of Tesla Optimus bots, right? So, not fear mongering, but just a matter of responsibility. That how do you talk about your livelihood, your jobs, your families? How much are you prepared to deal with a situation like this, right? Uh, and sometimes education is the first step in in doing anything about anything, right? Because I'm not gonna give you a blueprint of go out here, join Bitcoin MYK, push Bitcoin MYK on everybody, right? We just want to educate you on what's happening, and then you make the choice about what type of system would be the best to address it. But we might need to make it fast because I don't think we will have a whole lot of time to figure it out. Bitcoin NYK has been testing, collecting data for several years now. And I think our data is very good and we will know how to move. But as for you, I always tell people to see for yourself. You know, what's going on around you. Are your friends telling you that their job's in trouble, right? Were you worried during the port strike that why these people were doing this, and were you one of those people who were buying all the toilet paper, right? So that means you were affected personally. But that's all I want to say in this video. Keep following us in the channel. Very important stuff, guys. Like I said, on the level of climate change, on the level of nuclear proliferation, on the number of jobs in the economy, on the level of your livelihood, your health, right? Because of course, if you're unable to work, you're not going to be able to take care of your health and your medical needs as such properly. So keep all that in mind. Get educated about universal basic income. Get educated about the dangers of automation. If again, if you don't know where to start, just start with the port strike that would have affected everybody that's coming back, and try to investigate why was it that these people were willing to stop us from getting vital medicines that our family needs, that we need, that elderly citizens need. They may die if they don't get it. Why were they willing to stop food and everything else, right? And not care what happened to anybody. You really need to look into that. But that's all I want to say in this video. Guys, if you like content like this, don't forget to like, subscribe. Don't forget to join Bitcoin MYK and take care of yourselves and each other.